In the last week of May, on 27th of May, Gezi Park protests started initially. Firstly, that day and the following day, there was a small group of architects, planners and urban activists who were protesting against municipality and police force, who were trying to remove some of the trees in the north part of Gezi Park in order to opt to some ways for the pavement for the pedestrian project of Taksim Square. In the last months, especially in the last 1 year, there was an intense public debate about the Taksim Square project that was initiated by the municipality and which was an upside-down public space project that the public, both the public, also professionals from the architectural chamber and planning chamber were against that.
Meydanımız ve parkımızın yok olmasına seyirci kalmıyoruz, kalmayacağız. İstanbul'un kentsel kimliğinde, kentlilerin belleğinde önemli bir yer olan Taksim Meydanı ve Taksim Gezi Parkı İstanbul'un ve ülkemizin en önemli kamusal alanları arasındadır.
The main argument was that this project is another type of public space project initiated by the government, which is basically aiming to create a kind of clean, controlled, high surveillance space. And this project is being decided upside down without any participatory practices of design and without asking to the citizenship. So there was an intense moment until that week, and when the municipality came and tried to remove the trees, the protest started. Actually, first there were very few people, between 50 and 100 people. We were part of that protest, and on the 31st of May, the police went in the morning to the park. They removed the tents, they burned out the tents, they kicked out the protesters brutally, and they barricaded the park. So at that moment, that day, later in the following hours, a lot of activists got back, and in the evening, thousands of people got back. So actually, the initial protest, we're not expecting that the whole public will start to riot, initiated for a protest, which is initiated for the protesting the Taksim Square project or the other public space project. But the whole public somehow affiliated themselves with different kind of problems related to authoritarian government. And totally the whole protest became a kind of protest of rights, both in public space related to physical space, urbanism, but also public rights to any sense, every sense in this country related to government and citizenship. And during the protest with some friends, we saw that a lot of people were recording with iPad and iPhone or with their photo camera. I myself was recording with an iPad. Some of our friends, I was seeing that they were recording also without any aim. And then on the 2nd of June, few friends, we knew each other from other projects, and we were seeing each other every day in the park that week. We just came all together and we thought we should do something in order to contribute to protest, in order to contribute the whole resistant process, but also visually record what was going on, because it was very interesting in every sense. For example, we saw different kind of communities from different ideology, religious fraction, and students, a lot of different professionals from different fields, normal public, upper class, middle class, lower class. There were so many different kind of public. They were all together in Gezi Park. So the Gezi Park was hosting a kind of a heterogeneous public that people were staying, people were visiting continuously. So we thought that this is an interesting moment and it should be recorded. There was a lot of things going on. Firstly, there was a lot of violence was going on, initiated by the government against the normal people. And we wanted to witness what is happening and what unfair act is being proceeded by the government during the protest. And secondly, we were very much interested to record the everyday life of Gezi Park. Simple life, how people share the space, how people create different kind of solidarity practices, how people are creating visual languages, how they are disseminating the visual languages, and also in which moment, which day, what is happening. We don't want to miss anything because we didn't know where this protest will, this occupation, this resistance will end. We didn't know that. So we thought this is important to interview the people, figuring out which kind of people are visiting Gezi Park and taking part in the resistance, how they are contributing the resistance and what they are thinking about that, what is their imagination of society in the future, what is their imagination of public space, and what kind of democracy, what kind of formation of citizenship they are dreaming of. As we formed the video collective, Videoccupy, the whole thing we were experiencing and witnessing already, we wanted to record them. So we started together first what we recorded individually, we brought them all together, and then in an organic way we started to share what we are recording, when, which day and where. So we were sharing the task and recording, and some of our friends, they were editing. And we continuously worked 24 hours during the protest, during the resistance. We gathered a lot of recordings, different types of recordings, interviews, happenings, violence, everyday life act, everyday act, visual languages, and protest, types of protest, different kind of protest. And the change, the representation of the public space, Taksim Square and Gezi Park, of course.
Merdivenden keselim, merdivenin köşesine.
Kaldı. Nihat Turan'a montum kaldı. Polis gasp etmesin. Nihat Turan'a montum kaldı.
So when the protest went out from the Gezi Park, or let me say in that way, when the protests disseminated to different parks in Istanbul, we started to follow the forums, urban forums in the parks. Also, we started to shoot, organize interviews with some people who were kind of the leading persons during the protest. For example, the director of Architectural Chamber, the parliamentarians who were contributing, supporting the protest, and some lawyers and so on. This was kind of interviews. These interviews are informing what was happening before, what was happening during the Gezi Park, what is happening now, and in a wider perspective, what does all mean for Istanbul, for Turkey, and in a conceptual level, what does it mean for urban rights, for citizenship rights, and for any kind of rights in a country, and democratic rights, of course. So we are totally a kind of collective, even though we know each other roughly, or we somehow worked in the past differently. So actually we started to work without knowing each other. So it was a kind of type of solidarity, both in sense of contributing and taking part the protest. I mean, contributing the resistance and taking part in the resistance, and also in between us, sharing the task, exchanging the voluntary labor, and creating a collective action. So basically, Videoccupy as a collective is that. In terms of visual production, Videoccupy is not so much interested in documentary. It is more like seeing something, recording at that moment, and directly presenting what is being seen and what has been recorded. So we were very careful in editing to try to bring a naked visual material for the audience and try to be in a collective identity about that. I think this is very important. Most of our friends here in videoccupy, for them the camera is not a tool. The camera is part of your body, which is moving with your body and taking part in the happening, in the event directly. So it is not about, we don't consider the camera as a tool outside and recording from outside. It's just you are there happening. Your camera is your part of your tool, and bodily, all with your eyes, you are taking place in the happening, in the event. So video activism is somehow about that. And video activism is based on collective imaginary, and is based on collective image recording, also visual recording. Our aim is creating an archive, a public online digital archive. We recorded over 2,000 hours, and we did divide the recordings into dates, space, and types of protest and topics. We want to go more in detail categorization, and as soon as possible we want to set in the following months an online archive that open to the public, that everybody can use the image, and they can use the image, they can watch and use the images. So our aim is how to create an archive of videogram. This is what we are working on it now. So in this whole short last month practice as a video activist collective, the memory, visual memory, the direct visual memory is very important. Our understanding of the camera is totally different of a typical media, mainstream media usage. And third, in an ethical position, we don't record from outside. We are inside the happening. We are taking part in the event, and the video is kind of part of the body. Furthermore, archiving, the act of archiving of visual recordings is very important in order to keep the visual memory. And trying to create an archive that is representing a one moment of period of an image. We're trying to figure out how this archive can be more participatory, more interactive, and expanding and lively archive.